What a day, folks. And I'm privileged that you've decided to join us today on the Frank Figliuzzi Show. You might have your TV on in the background. I get it. Or you might have us on in the background. But we will be talking about what is three, count them, three confirmation hearings going on today. We have DNI, we have CDC, and of course, we'll be talking a little bit with our guest about Todd Blanche and how he's performing today, mostly as predicted. Let me, if you don't know Kait Justice, look, I'm committed, as you know, to showcasing some of the best investigative journalists who are totally independent. I believe it's the future of journalism, and it's not on cable TV, folks. That's not where it's at. So when I can vet someone, when I can, I know a lot of you suggest, hey, put this person on, put that person on. If I can't find them in the wild, and I can't confirm what they do because they're hiding and all of that, I don't put them on. Kait Justice, I have vetted to the extent I could, and I have looked at her work, and it is the kind of work that, at least when I was in the FBI, intelligence analysts would do and would win awards for. Kait Justice is a self-taught researcher, writer, and advocate who publishes Downwind of Truth on Substack. Please follow that. Where source documents. Yeah, she's got receipts connecting the Epstein financial network to people in power right now, along with the General Electric contamination story. It is her story. And those who have lived in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. She does this work with no institutional or corporate backing while raising 3 kids because she believes anyone willing to dig can find the truth. I'm with that. Let's bring in Kait Justice. Hi, Kait.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for that introduction.
Of course. I'll note to our viewers that Kait is joining us from outside her home.
Yes.
So, yeah,
maybe a little loud. Yeah. So if you hear the dogs barking, things like that, if it gets too distracting, please let me know. I'll try to find a different place, but it should be pretty good.
Yeah. Wow. So we've already got a graphic up of you, Kait, back when, and you were, let's see, it says, what does it say? The girl they tried to bury came back with a shovel. Is that?
Yeah.
That's an awesome.
Yeah, it kind of sums it up. And I just felt it was appropriate given the fact that most of the contamination stuff that I deal with is, the soil, and it's all of the remediation and them digging up the contamination. So I was like, it felt fitting. And the picture was actually from a meeting that I helped facilitate between the Department of Public Health and our city council and things like that, because our medical professionals in the area don't even know how the contamination impacts people or how it may be impacting their condition. So that's one of the things that I've been just trying to get attention to and get dealt with. I feel like it's kind of a low-hanging fruit in the scheme of it all.
Well, I'm certainly following your work, and many of the viewers with us today are or will be soon. But look, we can't dig into what we intended to dig into before we deal with the news of the day, which we'll do briefly. And I've got to tell you, if your blood pressure is normally high, I don't recommend watching these confirmation hearings. So look. Yeah, we got 3 going, and all 3 of them are disappointing. And I kind of had higher hopes for the CDC director nominee, but she won't really answer a straight question about whether she would follow an illegal order. It's clear that they've been told to say, well, that would never happen. The first response, if they're asked, would you follow an unlawful order from the president or the secretary? Their answer is, oh, that would never happen. So,
right.
That's coaching. But let's go to the real high blood pressure inducing response. Sean, let's go to Senator Whitehouse, who's been a guest on our show. Let's talk and Todd Blanche and Whitehouse asking about what happened with the $50,000 in the Kava salad bag that went to Tom Homan as a bribe from the FBI. Check out this answer.
Won't you tell us what became of the $50,000 in confidential money that the FBI reported that it gave to Tom Homan?
I'm not aware of what you're speaking about. To the extent that there have been public reporting about an investigation, I know nothing about it.
Well,
All
the
right.
public reporting is that the FBI reported giving $50,000 in the nature of a bribe to Tom Homan, and there's been no report of what became of that $50,000.
Wow. Kate,
Yeah,
your
I
response?
mean, again, I am not an expert. I call myself an average informed citizen. So, I'm just an average person, but I pay attention. And I feel like there is no way for you to not know anything about this. I mean, and he's under oath. So to just say,
Yeah.
I know nothing about this, I mean, maybe I am unfamiliar with the investigation, or I am like, there's other ways you could have, but to just flat out
Right.
say, I know
Yeah.
nothing, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not true.
Right. I need to learn more. I'm relatively new. I can get the answers for you. Even
Exactly.
that, he can't seem to do. And there is another option here, since we're in disbelief that he knows nothing about this and doesn't read the news, is that it's called deliberate willful ignorance, which
Yes,
is
willful
right.
ignorance.
Lawyers do this a lot, I will tell you, which is the least I know, the better, because someday I'm going to have to testify to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
it could be what we're seeing here today is, Blanche has told people, I don't want to be briefed on the following things. Right. And I think that could be it, because the alternative is really bad, which is he's deliberately lying under oath. So
And I don't know what else to call that, though, because I feel like,
yeah.
and I'm the type of person who will go back and try to find every clip that I can now of him ever talking about this, because
Right.
there has to be some instance of him at least acknowledging that this is in the news, that
Yeah.
somebody has accused him of that. To me, that sounds like he's saying, wow, I've never heard of that before. It's like,
Right.
that's not, I mean, how? And
No,
if that's true, you definitely shouldn't be the attorney general. Like,
we talked about it in my house. I don't.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, I
really
feel like just if you exist in this country and you ever watch the news in any capacity, I mean, that was everywhere. You've at least heard the name or heard about the bag of money or something. Like, you don't have to know every detail, but you've heard about it. Like, you have, especially as, someone who's currently trying to be sworn in as the attorney general.
Sean, let's do another. Here's another former guest of this show, Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut. Let's play a clip where Blanche is promising he won't do anything unconstitutional.
What my communications with President Trump, I will not talk about. He does not, nor should he. He has no obligation to discuss pardon or commutation decisions with me, and he has not. As far as
we got that one. Well, yeah, that's another kind of willful, ignorance. Don't let's not talk about this. I don't want to talk about it. Right? Don't do an email. Don't do anything in writing.
Yeah, and that's what he continuously does. The other thing that I noticed that they do is, so he's, they are obviously just trying to prop Trump up on a pedestal no matter what, because that's how they keep their jobs. But he, like, whenever he's asked a question, and all of them do this, but whenever they're asked a question about Trump or anything, they'll answer the question, but they answer it about Biden. Even though it wasn't asked about Biden, they just answer it about Biden to avoid ever actually answering the question about Trump. And then by the time they're done talking about Biden, it's like everyone's just completely off track from what the original question was. And so you've completely deflected. And that's what every single answer is, especially when it comes to Trump.
Yep, we've seen it before. You've accurately characterized it for folks. I got one more, and then we'll move on to our topic today that people really do need to know about, because there's an action item we're going to be asking about, and there's a deadline to do something. And let's go to near and dear to my heart, the intelligence community. Let's go to the hearing for Jay Clayton to be the next head of DNI. And let's see if the lawyer Clayton, currently the head of SDNY, the U.S. attorney, former chairman of the SEC. This is no dumb guy. Let's see if he knows who won the 2024 election. Sean.
I want to ask a follow-up question to the vice chairman. Who won the 2020 election?
Yeah, 2020.
I've answered that question. I'm not going to get into that.
You have not
anymore.
answered that question. Could you answer the question? Who won the 2020 election? Pretty simple question.
2020.
Yeah, I said I'm.
So it's A or
I-
it's two,
my
two
answer.
choice.
No, I'm going to give you the same answer. The answer to the chairman was, he asked me if I was an election denier. I am not an election denier. Joe Biden was certified as
No, we all
the
know Joe
president.
Biden
He went through his process. We went through our electoral process, and I can tell you that I was in my seat at the SEC, and
I'm just
worked
asking
hard
a
for the
really
transition.
simple
So-
question. Who won the 2020 election?
as I said to you, we went through our processes, and Joe Biden became the president of the United States. And
That's not an answer to the question of who, I'm asking one more time.
Okay.
Who won the
I
2020
don't,
election?
I'm not, this is like, I'm just not, I'm here to talk about my qualifications.
One of your qualifications is you told us you're going to tell the truth to power, and you won't answer a very simple question. Tell
I think
the truth
I've
to power.
answered it many times.
You have not answered it.
Okay.
You have not answered it. Saying Joe Biden was certified is not an answer.
Wow. Wow.
It's not a hard answer. And that's the kind of stuff that they do to just the average person too. I mean, like anytime I'm trying to ask a question, whether it's the EPA or anything, I'm trying to get information about anything. If it's something that they don't want to answer, that is what they do. They'll give you facts are related to it, kind of around it, but they don't ever actually say it, especially, these people, because they're under oath.
And look, folks, we may hear more about this use of DNI. This is an important position tonight. If this president addresses the nation as we think he is tonight or tomorrow, because the rumors, at least, are that he's going to start talking about foreign threats to the election process. And that's going to come straight from, tomorrow night, to correct myself, that's going to come straight from the DNI's office, if indeed he does that. So let's move on, Kate, let's move on to another outrage that's developing, and you've caught it and you've gotten smart on us. And that has to do with the Trump family and their close buddies wanting their very own special bank.
Yes.
Can you get us smart on that?
Yes. So first, I'm not an expert. So this is a very, layman explanation of what's happening, just so that, people like us can understand enough to know why we need to take the actions that we're going to ask you to do. But basically, we have, there's cryptocurrency. People kind of have heard of Bitcoin and things like that. Well, there's something that's a little bit different. It's a digital currency that's kind of like that. But instead of just, because most of those cryptocurrencies, like, they only have value because we say they have value. Like, there's no asset backing it the way that, like, our dollar has gold backing it. So that, in theory, if you were to trade your dollar bills, in theory, you should be able to trade it for the value of gold, like, in very simple terms. Well, stablecoins are a digital currency that are backed. It's backed kind of by the dollar, the way that the dollar is backed by the coins, or by the gold, I mean. So the way the dollar is backed by gold, stablecoins uses the dollar as kind of its asset, if you will.
Hence the name stable.
Exactly. So know that your digital currency is always going, that your digital currency is always going to be worth what the dollar is worth. So that's the promise. And people use these digital currencies mostly, not always, but there's a lot of illegal activity that happens with these kinds of things, because one of the benefits is that they're not able to be tracked the way the dollars would. So if you're wiring money internationally, there's certain things that have to happen that we are supposed to be doing that help just kind of make sure that this money isn't going to illegal weapons or things that we just wouldn't want to happen. Well, these stable coins don't have that. And so the other component of this, when you have a bank that you get your money from, or you put your money into rather, you have an insurance on this, right? Like up to about $250,000. You have insurance in a bank, and you know that your money is going to be in that bank. Like, there's certain regulations and laws that kind of protect you in that regard. Well, when you buy these digital currency coins, it's really just this company that's promising you that it's there and that you can use your wallet and that it's going to be worth the dollar. And so what happens when you give them money in exchange for these coins, they're using that money to buy, I don't know if it's bonds or things like that, but they earn interest. So the companies are taking your money, giving you these digital coins and saying, we promise we'll make sure it's always worth $1. And they're earning interest on everything. So they're getting money and they earn a significant amount of money on interest. And that never goes back to you in any capacity. So they get all of this money.
So there's no, just to clarify, so that's interesting.
Yes.
You're saying that an investor is not, what are they, if you know, to put it back to a traditional bank, if I put money in a bank, I'm getting something. I'm getting some interest, and I know the bank is going to go out and they're going to give loans out and mortgages based on all of our money, and that's fine because I'm getting at least something back. You're saying a stable coin depositor or investor is not getting anything back?
So I'm not so much sure. There might be an avenue for somebody to do that, but as someone who's using a stable coin, if you're purchasing these digital coins to then use internationally or for whatever purchases that accept these stable coins, your coins are just worth whatever that dollar's worth, whatever you paid in. But now they're taking money and they're earning interest on top of it. I'm not 100% sure the very specific details of how they've made that all work, but there is a lot of interest that they do earn as the stable coin issuers.
Right.
And so now,
just not to interrupt, because I'm actually,
please.
For folks who are saying, boy, is Frank learning as he goes? Yes, I am.
Yes.
And so
we all are.
And so this lack of insurance has got my attention also, right? Because when we know that when we deposit in banks and most most credit unions, you see the little sticker on the door when you walk into a bank. Many of us haven't walked into a bank in a long time, but you see little FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And as an FBI agent, of course, we investigated bank robberies, and people would say, well, I never really understood why. Isn't that just theft? Well, it's theft of the government's money, because the government's got to pay you back when a bank is FDIC insured.
Yes.
And so, the FBI agents are trying to get the money back. And so, so you're telling us, Trump wants to do this, and there's no. Did you hear me?
Yeah, and there's no, and then I lost you.
No insurance involved.
Yes, none that I can find. And so I was just looking up a little bit more, but basically the way it works is like you're giving them a real dollar, and they're using that real dollar to then purchase things that earn them interest. But they're just giving you a digital coin. And they're saying that this coin is always going to be worth $1. Meanwhile, they've taken your real dollar and now they're earning interest on things. And there's no law or anything that says that coin's always going to be worth $1. That's just a promise by this company that has no regulations.
So tell us who's behind this. When I say Trump, who are the usual suspects that are trying to open this bank up?
Well, there's a few of them. So there is right now, I'm not sure that's part of the problem. So that's part of what I'll get to. Well, there's a couple stable coin issuers. One of the largest one, I think, still is called Tether, and Howard Lutnick has, I believe, I know you're shocked to hear his name. He, I believe it's him, or maybe it was Cantor Fitzgerald, which is still run by his children. But there's 5% ownership of Tether as a whole. And Tether owns the largest stable coin in the world. And that was partly created by Brock Pierce, who was down at the golden statue. What is it they call it? Don Colossus or some crap. Don's. Yeah. He was down there when they cut the ribbon. And so there's a lot of corruption there that I have written about. So I know that one, there's some visibility with who's behind that one. And then Donald Trump's family has World Liberty Financial, and they have a stable coin. And then there's another one called Circle. And Circle just last week was the very first of its kind to be approved for a charter. And now I'm not as familiar with all of the legal things that grants this company, but they have been granted a charter. Trump's World Liberty Financial has already applied for their charter. They're waiting for this to go through. So from what I understand, this gives them some real legal power as like a bank, and they can issue their own currency. Really, that's what these are. Now, that is all said and done. Our public comment period is gone on that one. They're probably going to approve this. What we can do, though, is there is a new rule that regulates this specific kind of bank. And as it stands, as it stands, we can't let this go through the way it is. So right now, it doesn't require them to have any kind of insurance on your money. And one of the major, there's two other points that are like really important. One was that they don't have to tell us who owns these banks. Like, they can be shell companies. They can be like, they don't have to actually disclose real owners in any capacity. As far as
that's
I can tell.
So to be clear, is that what, and I believe there's a Witkoff involved here, right?
Yes,
Steve Witkoff's son.
That's World Liberty Financial. Yes.
Part of World Liberty Financial. His name's all over this. And then again, as we said, one of the real concerns is that we can't really have transparency. Yeah, yes. we can't see who all the players are in this. But you're saying they want this to happen. They want the lack of insurance. They want the secrecy around their ownership, or it's already a fait accompli. They're allowed to. Where are we on that?
So I'm just trying to look at my notes here. So as it stands, the way the rule is written, if it goes through, then it will allow them to do all of this. The other really major thing is it requires the OCC to give the Cent's Treasury 30 days notice before bringing most enforcement actions against a stablecoin issuer. So it basically says that if there's anything that these stablecoin issuers are doing that is found to be illegal or troublesome, they have to tell Scott Bessent first and give him a 30-day notice to kind of decide if they're going to do, so that he can cover everything up.
Oh yeah.
And then they can, decide if there's merit for going forward. So that's, and there's a lot more in here that's a problem. But so right now there's a public comment period, and that public comment period ends on July 24th.
Okay. You froze briefly for a second, but
can you hear me now?
So to recap, the Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, will be the fox guarding the henhouse.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way he's going to say no to this.
Nope.
And so now there is a public comment period that we're in right now.
Yes, and I have links, which I'm sure you can share, but that basically, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know all the rules or go through and read it all, but you can go to this website and you can leave a comment and just basically tell them, we need to know who owns these banks. It can't all go through Scott Bessent. There has to be some actual checks and balances here. And then there was a couple other points that I had made, but I had made a little list in the article that I had written about it. And I feel like the more people who can at least leave the comment and just let them know, hey, we're watching, we're paying attention, and we know that this is not okay. And this is not normal behavior. So
before we finish the show, let's be sure, and Sean can help us with this, to be able to put up a website or a link or some point of contact for our folks to call.
Yeah, and it's a website, and there's literally a button that you leave a comment, and you can put your comment and your name right in there. And
that's located where? What is the?
I have an article. I'll see if I can.
Yeah, well, Sean,
it's that article. Yeah, okay. So it's the article that I had sent to you at the very bottom of that article.
Yep, we'll find it.
are the links, and it has the docket number and everything, just in case you did want to call. I'm sure there's people you can call about it too. But yeah, I just feel like the more people who leave that comment and just show concern, the better off we're going to be.
We want to know, you can tell folks, you can tell them we want to know who these owners are.
Yes.
We want to know, we don't like the idea that there's no insurance. And folks, look, it's a clue when the government thinks something is so unstable, even though it's called stable coin, that they don't want to insure it. And well, it's like might as well go to Las Vegas, really.
Yeah, it's really just, and part of what it is too. So one of the ways that like Trump has benefited from this stable coin, for example, because even without the charter, they still use this tool. It's still being used. And so when the founder, I think it was, of Binance, before he got his pardon,
yes,
I believe
this is the Chinese national.
I believe he owed a large debt, and I don't remember exactly. I can't remember the details off the top of my head. But in order to pay off that debt, he bought Trump's stablecoin and did it with the stablecoin. So then Trump makes all the interest off of that. So, and then that man got his pardon. So that's, I mean, like you can't look at this and go, oh yeah, that's just normal behavior. Like it's just, I mean, it's very, very blatant at this point.
It's a house of cards. I have written in my column, I've written about how World Liberty Finance was financed. And yes, the Chinese national who heads Binance pumped a ton of money into World Liberty Financial, owned in part by the Trump family and Witkoff and Witkoff's son. They're all in cahoots together. And then for doing that, it appears that Trump then pardoned the head of Binance for some really serious crimes, including money laundering that included an allegation that he was allowing pedophiles and child sexual abusers, and drug traffickers and terrorists to move money through Binance. And he got sentenced to prison for that. And then Trump pardons him. And then when a reporter asks him about the pardon, Trump goes, I don't know the guy, but a lot of people are telling me he did nothing wrong.
Yep. I remember seeing that. And it's like, what? Like, I just feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone sometimes. I'm like, this is real? Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's so shocking and like appalling that this is where we're at with the people who are supposed to be running the show. And I'm just like, when I learn, like, and the more I dig and I find out these little connections into it, I'm just like, oh my God, like how do the people
in part
I know how
we let this happen. And I know that people will say, I call my congressman, I'll call, like Sean's put up on the screen, it appears to be regulations.gov. Regulations.gov, and it says we should be referencing docket ID OCC 2026-0463. Docket ID OCC 2026-0463. Go to regulations.gov and find this Trump attempt to open what essentially would be a secret bank with no insurance and little oversight, except for his friend Secretary of Treasury Bessent. We have that right?
Yes, I was just looking. I was looking for.
There we go. Sean's put it up for you.
Okay. Because I think there was like a direct link that I had at one point to it as well.
Even better.
So that it's like it goes right to the docket. I think I have that one too. So I'll drop that in the
money that's being made. Look, we already know in the 900-page financial disclosure that Trump provided for 2025 that he made multiple billions of dollars just in 1 year alone while serving us as the president of the United States. And folks, this appears to be just another scam. You've heard before my comments about cryptocurrency, and I'll say it again. I believe crypto is the currency of criminals. And now we're into stablecoin. So look, if your spouse or significant other comes home today and says, "What did you learn today?" Have you ever asked your kid or grandkid that? What have you learned? You can say, "I know what stablecoin is," and it it seems really unstable to me.
It seems very unstable and concerning. And the thing that should also concern us about some of this stuff is that one of the things that I found when I was looking into all of this was that Epstein had already started to talk to the Saudis about creating a cryptocurrency backed by a new currency that they were going to create backed by oil. So he had already, there's emails, I wrote all about this, and it was literally like laid out in great detail. And then it appears a lot of these plans have come to fruition with the help of Jared Kushner. So there's a lot here that is very concerning, and Epstein was very involved in all of the crypto and everything that's evolving right now. And so this is clearly, there's a lot of players involved and there's a lot of plans, and I'm sure there are things that I have not even uncovered or couldn't even imagine that they're going to be doing with this. And so it's just really, really important that you don't let it overwhelm you, because part of what they do is they make it sound so intentionally complicated that you're just like, oh, whatever. And that's what they're hoping for. And you don't have to understand how it actually works or the technical aspects of it to understand what it does and why it matters and what questions to ask about it. And I think that's more than fair of us to have these questions. I don't think it's unreasonable to want to know who's owning banks that are going to have charters that are going to be able to manipulate our finances like this. And the other thing about these stablecoin wallets is, a normal bank in theory can't just like turn off your account and block all your funds and take your money and freeze your accounts without some kind of legal reason to do so. They can decide who spends what, where, why, if they want to freeze your accounts. And so it's like, the average person isn't probably buying stablecoin yet, but stablecoin is being used in our lives to control a lot of things that impact us. So it's just
increasingly there are banks now who are with regard to crypto and Bitcoin are actually counting that as your assets and permitting that as down payments and as mortgage payments. We're getting there, folks. And what concerns me is the less regulation on this industry, the more likely we are to ramp up to what led to the financial collapse of 2008. If you remember, bad loans to people who should have never gotten loans and banks looking the other way. And then boom, the balloon popped. And I see it starting right now. And if you want to learn more about this, Kait has a piece, an in-depth piece on this particular Trump scam, I'll call it, that's my word, on her Substack page, which you should be subscribing to if you can. There it is, Downwind of the Truth with Kait Justice. What happens when the Trump family wants a bank with no insurance and a secret owner list? That title right there is the synopsis, folks. You can use that when you reach out and contact regulations.gov and say, yeah, that's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah,
indeed. Hey, I want to, in the remaining time we have, which isn't a lot, but we've got 10 minutes. I'm intrigued, Kait, by how you got here. And I'm sure if I'm intrigued, many of our viewers are saying, how did you start digging into stuff like this? What's your story? And tell us what you can about how you became this intrepid investigative journalist, so to speak.
Thank you. It's kind of I don't know. It's very strange. It was not obviously intentional. I think most people who are doing this kind of work, it's, they started one way. But for me, I actually, overcame a lot in my life. I grew up, we were fairly poor, and I had a lot of mental health issues, a lot of physical health issues. And, I managed to get through a lot of these things. But a few years ago, really, I had realized, I was reading the local paper, and I had realized that there was an issue with the PCBs. And now where I live, this has been an ongoing thing. PCBs are forever chemicals, and they contaminate many places. And, the EPA deals with it, blah, blah, blah. It's in the news a lot. So I never thought anything of it. But this particular article was about how they were tearing down old General Electric transformer buildings, which are a huge source of contamination. And so there was like extra PCBs in the air. And so it was right near my mother's house. And so I started digging into it. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, why haven't I ever like really learned about this? And so I just kind of started digging and realized that we live in one of the most contaminated communities in the entire country. And
it's an EPA brown site, is it not?
It is, but it should be a Superfund site.
Yep.
And the reason, and so for those unfamiliar, a Superfund site would basically require them to do a significant more amount of remediation and monitoring around human health. The brownfield site allows them to kind of just put a Band-Aid on it and sell it off to each other and pay each other to remediate things. And, there's a lot more profit in that. And we, as a small city, were very dependent on General Electric. More than half of our community was employed by them for many, many decades. And so when it came time to designate a brownfield site versus Superfund site, General Electric had said to our mayor, well, our General Electric plastics, a Superfund site is no home for General Electric plastics, but a brownfield site, we can probably stick around. So it's like the mayor was in a really unfortunate position. So there was so much corruption. And so I just kind of began digging and seeing, well, what's going on? And I realized we're still in the middle of this. They're still remediating. They're still not testing the way they should. There's science from, his name's Dr. Carpenter. He's one of the leading PCB scientists in the country. And he had done a study that showed we have it's called vapor intrusion. So one of the most dangerous things about the PCBs is they volatilize and break down and find their ways into your homes, buildings. And there's a lot of newer science on this, newer being the past 25 years. But the EPA won't update anything. All of the data that they use for anything, any of their projects, anything, it's all from 1990s, 2000s. So now I have become quite a squeaky wheel. The EPA, I actually have a complaint filed against our local EPA Region 1 with the Massachusetts Attorney General. I go to all of our meetings. I have just sent another email because we're in a public comment period for other remediation stuff. So I want to make sure I'm on the record demanding certain testing that they are refusing, so that's the kind of thing that I started doing. But I was laid off a year and a half ago now. And in the meantime, I had started just writing, like I was writing about the PCB stuff, and that my husband actually called me Kait Justice. He's like, look at you go, Kait Justice, just kind of joking around. And I was like, hey, that's kind of a good name.
It is.
And so it kind of stuck. And that's when it was during the time when the Epstein files were starting to be released. And there was one component in particular that I was just like, it just was interesting and made me curious. And that was this book by Donald Barr. Donald Barr was Bill Barr's father. And Donald Barr is the person who is supposed to have hired Jeffrey Epstein at the Dalton School. And Donald Barr was also, former intelligence. And he had written a book called Space Relations. And this book is basically about oligarchs who run these planets and traffic people to this planet and mine. They make these slaves mine this mineral that they have made all the other planets dependent on intentionally. And so they live kind of outside the jurisdiction. And there was just so many parallels to the Epstein story. And I'm like, wait a minute, the guy who hired him wrote this? I was like, it's almost like a manual or something. And so that was kind of the opening to the Epstein stuff. And that was right when all of the files were starting to be released. And then I was starting to learn about, the actual seriousness of the crimes and the survivors and all of the things that they not only had been through, but like had dealt with our government and are currently still going through. And so I just started digging and writing, and people were like, you should, write on Substack and you should do this. And I just built this following, and here I am.
Here you are. And yeah, you've now dipped the pen into many other areas that you're really making us smart on, including, who knew, did you ever think you'd be writing about stablecoin and banking?
No, ever, never. I say that all the time. I'm like, I just never, like, I knew I've always been like, I have a serious case of like injustice sensitivity. So like if something doesn't sit right with me, like I can't stop thinking about it and I will have to figure it out. But I had an idea, but not in a way where I'm able to literally write something and then I'm able to make sure that it goes directly to the Democratic Oversight Committee, who have actually, opened investigations into things that I've directly written about. So it's like, I'm not sure that my work was why that was open, but I'm sure it was definitely very helpful for writing this letter, and definitely, because it's like all these points. And so it's really exciting to just be able to contribute in that way, just because right now it's such a time where people feel so helpless. Like it's really hard to watch the news and go, wow, that's just so wrong, and like not be able to stop it. So this is our way of stopping it. You can be informed. One of the other things that I did was created, it's called my Citizen Investigators Toolkit. And so it's just an ebook, and it's a pay what you can. So if you don't have the funds, you can just put $0 in and you can download it. But it's just a resource that kind of teaches you to do what I'm doing. Like, here's the places I would look for things. And it's aimed more for like your local communities. So like your local school board, your city council, just like if you see something and you're like, that's kind of weird, or that didn't make sense, or the budget was a little odd, or why would that happen, or things like that it's just kind of like a resource guide of where do you even start with something like that.
And they can they can get that on your Substack account.
Yes, there's actually a link right at the top of my homepage of my Substack that is like the Citizen Investigators, and there's a workbook that's the same, pay what you can. My goal is just to empower people to do what I'm doing, maybe not at the scale that I'm doing it. You don't have to write, but to just understand that you're not too dumb to be there. They just try to make you feel that way. You don't have to understand every single word that they're saying, because you're not supposed to. You're not an expert. And I just want people to feel empowered to be like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't understand. Can you please explain that to me? Like that.
Yeah, I love the idea of starting local and picking up a copy of this because it is overwhelming on the federal level, but it's not on your local level.
Not at all. Nope.
And you'll be amazed at how people will talk to you, the records that are available to you, the open meetings that you can go to.
Yes.
So yeah, if something's got your attention, you should be digging into it. And then, on a national level, look, I can tell all of you, the news cycle is packed. They meet every morning, every network you watch. There's an editorial meeting every morning at headquarters, and they decide what they're going to be covering today and what they're not. And there's just too much to choose from. And so when you have Substack accounts like Kait's, where you can say, okay, I saw something on the news, I need to get more in depth on this issue. This is how you do it.
Yes.
And that's the benefit of Substack authors. And Kait's one of the better ones. And you've heard me say before with other independent folks I have on, look for citations. How do you know who to follow or not? Look for citations. Look for clear demarcation between opinion, which is fine.
Yes.
And stated fact. Are they doing their homework? Are they also offering alternatives like this?
Yes.
This, I could be wrong. I don't know. This could be something here, but it could also be this over here.
Yep.
Those are the signs that someone's doing legitimate, credible work. Right? Kait,
yes.
What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. And I try very hard to make it clear when something is my interpretation of something versus this is the fact as it is and you should just take it this way, because those are different things. It's like most of my work is my interpretation, but I try to be very clear on that. And then I try to be clear when I have a fact, like this was actually said by so-and-so. And then things where I make a lot of claims that reference like older cases or things, like I'll try to add a source section to the bottom just so people can go find, oh, okay, that did happen and this is where she got that information. So then they can decide how credible that claim was because they can see where my source was from, that this is where I got it from. And that's the skill that I think a lot of times we have not only stopped teaching in school, but like we just are missing in general. It's like that critical thinking, really, like, does that make sense? Or should I go a step further and verify again? And so, yeah, I think all your points are spot on.
Yeah, I try to practice it myself. Folks know I write a weekly column. It usually is almost always out on Wednesdays. Today is Wednesday, so my column for Lincoln Square is out today. And yes, it's full of citations. And yes, I encourage you to look at it and subscribe. And today, of course, we timed it well. It's all about Todd Blanche and why he should not be the next Attorney General of the United States, and why I think it's not overly dramatic to say that this week, particularly with 3 confirmation hearings, is really going to drive the course of the next couple of years, folks. And theoretically, if indeed the GOP wins again, we will be setting precedent on what the Justice Department, the CDC, and the DNI look like. And it's not pretty. And some of the things I call out in my column on Blanche with citations is, his law firm made something like $9 million representing Trump, particularly in the hush money case involving.
He just called himself his lawyer in this confirmation hearing.
He said,
I'm his lawyer, was his lawyer.
And then he corrected himself. Right. Yes. I was.
Kind of important, Todd, to get that one right during.
Oh, yeah. Hearing. That's a spontaneous utterance right there. And yeah, so we have a guy.
Freudian slip, if you will.
It literally became wealthy. Remember, he was an AUSA, a government employee in White Plains, New York, and he became wealthy on Trump. And we're not even clear whether Trump still owes him legal fees, by the way. The PAC that pays the legal bills for Trump is running out of money, folks. And so Attorney General, it may still be owed money from his boss, which is really unbelievable. So check that out. Check Kait out. We're all glad that you took time today. Get back to the confirmation hearings if you can stand it. And Kait, keep up the good work. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone who took the time to listen today and takes the time to go leave a public comment. It really does matter.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for alerting it to us. And we have until Friday, July 24, to do the public comment on the secret Trump bank.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
so
everybody.
much.
Stay safe. Take care.
Bye.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. That was Kait Justice. Many of you did say, hey, this is somebody you should look at and maybe consider having on. I appreciate that. And we'll do more of the independent investigative journalists as they really come to our attention, folks. I can't emphasize enough the importance of the confirmation hearings this week. And you saw some of the outrageous comments when people don't know who the president is or who won the last election and refuse to talk about it. Even really disappointing, this doctor with an impeccable record who's been nominated to be the Centers for Disease Control director. She was asked a question today. I saw her asked, if you're asked to do something against science for the lack of, that will endanger the safety and public health of the American people, would you ever do that if asked to? And she said, I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think the president or the secretary would ask me to do that. Okay, that's not what you were asked. And it's truly, truly shocking. It is the mass brainwashing of some otherwise smart people who now encircle the president and do what he wants and protects him. We'll keep covering it here, and I'm grateful for you joining us today. I'll see you on Frank Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern this Friday. Take care.